And if everything worked well, we should be live as
Right?
usual. Yep.
Sweet.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Everything Outside Code. And today I have Jay with me. Jay is the CTO at Shuffle. Jay, you want to say hi before we continue?
Hey everyone, glad to be here.
Yep. Thanks, Jay. I'm happy to have you on as well. Today is going to be fantastic. As usual, we're going to be going at engineering leadership. Jay is the CTO, so I'm really curious how engineering leadership contributes to business growth. I used to be a product manager, and while I was a product manager, I would fight with engineers a lot because they'd say, "Hey, before we can build this feature, William, we need to fix this thing in infrastructure, or we need to migrate the code base." I'm like, "What? What are you even talking about?" Um, we need to serve the business. We need to serve customers. We need to send features to sales because we need to get money. So today I'm going to be talking to Jay about all that, how engineering management works, what it's like to be CTO. So if you're thinking about what CTOs do, um, and you have questions for Jay, you can just drop them in the comments, and we're going to take those. If you're hanging around, just say hi at any point in time, and definitely I'll say hi back. So we could just get straight to it, Jay. You could give us like a brief background of yourself, how you got here. That would be great.
Sure, sure thing. So I'd say, transitioned the things I worked on quite a bit. I started in just web infrastructure. I did that for a year or two, and then actually got into research because my original plans were to do PhD and get into academia, but then uh, life had different plans. I went around running a bunch of research papers in data science, and I also authored a book, and I was set to do a PhD and get into university and probably just continue academia. But then along the way, I wanted to get some practical experience in data science, and that's when I landed a role in data science and at LT Partners, which is an affiliate marketing company. Well, was then acquired by New Engine. But when I was going through that experience of being a data science into data science, I got promoted to an analytics manager, and that's when I was introduced to product management. And there, I built a SaaS platform from scratch. Our team built Lyft, which is a platform where companies can make decisions for their freight marketing programs using data from multiple sources, and we have specialized reports for them to make decisions. But going through that experience kind of made me realize that this is my thing. I love doing this, and I'm actually good at it. The match of both those things where I know I'm good at this, but I also love it was something I hadn't felt in quite a while. And so I made a switch to stay in product. And during those times when I was doing a bunch of data science stuff, I had met Frederick, CEO of Shuffle, and I had done an internship back in the day with him to work on some machine learning stuff for Martech. It's a framework in cybersecurity and how you can classify logs based on the framework using machine learning models. I worked on that for a while with Fred, and then of course moved on to other things. But I always stayed in touch with him, and when the time came to be and I moved to US last year, I went through this engineering management program here at Duke University. And after I graduated, I could go back to my previous gig or I could try something new. And that's when this opportunity showed up where I could join Shuffle back, this time in, well, an elevated role and kind of do all things tech. And eventually I decided this is what I wanted to do, and here I am. So, all the way from web infrastructure to now being more into engineering management and just doing all things tech.
That's amazing. That's like a grass to like very progressive story. you've
Yeah.
you've it's a very interesting one, and I'm very interested in the engineering management program at Duke. How
Sure.
was it like? Also, did you learn stuff there that you get to apply every day now, or was it like theoretical engineering management and then there's the real life? Now, how was it?
Oh, I know. I wanted to believe in the beginning that that would be the case for the most part, where there'll be a lot of theory and there'll be some nuggets here and there that I would learn here at Duke. But as it turned out, it was the opposite. There was hardly any theoretical stuff, and almost all was focused on what you'd find in real life. My Duke experience has been fabulous. I would recommend the MEM program, Masters of Engineering Management, to everyone who wants to get into, well, engineering management in general. It doesn't have to be limited to software. You could do get into operations management, you can do program management, product management, you can get into the hardware industry and many more things. We have specializations and things like that. But my experience was pretty neat. I would point out one specific course that I just keep recommending to everyone, which is the software business management course by John Alessio here. He That course is probably arguably the best course I've taken in my life, hands down, in my entire academia, because I am literally using a lot of things I learned from the ad shuffle, right? A lot of things happen. I'm like, huh, I learned about this in the class. And it's not just that I found things in the course that I'm using right now, it's the amount of things I found in that course. It's just that the density of real world knowledge and experience and case studies and just a million other things that I found in that course that I'm using right now is just mind blowing. And
Wow.
so my experience has been pretty good. I would recommend it to anyone who wants to get into engineering management. And well, Duke is Duke, right? So you'll have good academic experience, learnings, but then if you just want to have a great university experience, I mean, Duke's the best. So
Yeah. So
pretty fun.
this software business management course is at Duke, right?
It's at Duke. Yeah, it's one of the electives that's offered, that you can take. After I took it and I kind of made it semi, um, like popular among a couple of my friends. I had kind of feedback from them as well that yep, this is something. And just I mean, at this point I'm just marketing the course to whoever's listening.
Yeah.
It's a,
Eh,
it's
You're
a good course.
yeah, you're even marketing it to me, and that's good. So anyone that's listening, Masters of Engineering Management at Duke University, and then look for the software business management elective course.
By journalists.
And yeah, that's your pathway to, effective engineering management. Sounds like a line from LinkedIn. But yeah, that's definitely something you should look out for if you want to do engineering, if you want to do engineering management. And it's surprising that you say, or at least you hold it really high in terms of applying whatever you've learned
Mhm.
from the university there to real life. Because usually it's the other way around. It's like whatever you study is just so you can get a really nice certificate, and then you go out there and it's something entirely different.
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised that that wasn't. Well, I really shouldn't have been because it's Duke, but
Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised with how much of our curriculum was focused on the real world stuff, and
yeah,
the SBM course just blew it out of the water. It was just like all practical. It was great.
that's cool. That's good to know. Bookmarking that as well. So let's talk about shuffle.
Sure.
What shuffle, and what does
Sure.
shuffle do? What's the transformation we get from shuffle?
So Shuffle is a sole platform, and we are open source. So we are sort of your one-stop shop for cybersecurity workflows, playbooks, automation, and things like that. We are an automation platform that's highly specialized in cybersecurity, right? And the reason is because Frederick, our CEO, he built Shuffle from scratch, and he has been in cybersecurity himself for quite a while. And so Shuffle started as just a project on the side. We like,
Yeah,
hey, I have like I need this, and so I'm just gonna build it for myself. But then eventually realized that a lot of people need this, and
yeah,
so can I turn the project into a product? So Shuffle started as a project in 2019, and as the years have went by, that's turned into a full-fledged platform. We have Shuffle Cloud and on-prem, so we support both on-prem installations and cloud. People can just sign up for free on shuffler.io, and they get 10,000 app runs by default. You can just kind of play around, see what's up. But essentially, we are open source, so we don't know how many real users we have because it's a cybersecurity platform. We care about privacy, and we do not track how many people deployed locally, but it's going well.
yeah. Is this? I'm trying to see. Is this? This is the website, right?
It is, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, sharpflow.io. So if you're looking for cybersecurity solution, I guess if you go to the website, you'd learn more. I just saw, automate phishing or approvals with confidence. That sounds good. Whoever wrote that hero section definitely did well. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, if you're interested in Shuffle, just go to shuffler.io, and yeah, you could sign up and say William sent you. And also, if you get to Duke, for anyone listening, and you get on the Masters of of Engineering Management course, say William sent you as well. Um, so at Shuffle, what do you do? What does your day to day as a CTO look like?
So I kind of wear many hats, but my focus is on product and AI, and not the fact that both of them are buzzwords at this point, but in terms of product, the way we built Shuffle was to kind of help cybersecurity engineers do as much as they can on their own. So think of Shuffle as a code editor per se. The limitations are your imagination, right? And so we have more than 2000 integrations already pre-built by us, but then you can also build your own integrations based on open api framework. If any API is built based on open api framework, then you can just automatically build it. You can also build it on your own because you can build custom integrations. There's all of that, but then you can also execute Python scripts inside your workflows. And so truly the way we built it was whatever you can think of, Shuffle can do. If you want to automate based on schedules, you can do that based on specific triggers. You want to execute Python scripts, you want to execute specific API, you want to hit APIs, things like that. You can just do anything and everything. And we built Shuffle with that philosophy, allowing you to do almost anything.
Hmm.
But what we have recently realized is that that's great, and we have many power users who keep pushing the limits of Shuffle. We're like, oh, you can do that as well. um, but recently we have realized that people also love to just have use cases and specific playbooks built for them, and so they simply define what they want to do, and it just magically builds itself, right? And so we've been working on Shuffle 2.0. It's a quarter or two away. We've been making strides at that recently, but because LLMs exist now, because we have figured out a proprietary way to kind of handle the flow of data and instructions between nodes, we are working on a way for you to simply define what you want to do, your use case, and we'll build everything for you, the entire workflow. And Shuffle 2.0 is going to be based on that. How can we make use cases better for you? And so even non-super users can use it. People who haven't been in the industry for years and years, but just want like this one very specific thing. They're like, I don't want to go through all the training and resources and documentation. It's just like, I have this one problem, just solve this for me, right? And so we're working on that. That's product, and also the AI piece. Lemma 3.1 is out, and it's quite powerful, and I think it certainly opens so many doors for us. So I personally am working on, my main focus is on product and AI, kind of making sure that Shuffle 2.0 does what we are envisioning it to be. And also every now and then I handle the usual customer calls, and
Yeah.
sales calls, support, biz operations, things like that. But that's just something that we like a lot of our team members to do, because talking to customers, talking to support, talking to people who want to use Shuffle, it keeps us grounded. It helps us stay in touch with what the reality looks like compared to what we think people want. And so I wear many hats, but my focus is product and AI.
Yeah, that's really cool, and I like what you say about AI. It's not like you're trying to invent something new. It's just like you're taking something that exists and you're trying to supercharge it with AI,
Exactly.
right? You're trying to improve an existing experience with AI. That's great. I I feel like that's a great way to use AI. Treat it like electricity. You would do the thing normally, but with electricity, you do it better. You're more efficient, and that's how it works with AI. And I also like what you say about everyone talking to customers. So how do you ensure developers talk to customers? I know everyone says this, that the developers have to talk to customers. Everyone on the product team has to talk to customers. How
Yeah.
exactly do you facilitate this? Do you book like weekly calls? Do you work with customer success? Do
Mhm.
engineers shadow customer success calls that are periodic, or how exactly does this work?
Sure. So this also leads into leadership fundamentals in general, because developers and people in tech usually don't like to talk to people. I come from the same background, so I have empathy there, but I also understand the level of difference it can make if you start talking to people. Right? It just kind of opens your perspective in ways that you don't even know exist. And so the way we do that is leading by example. And so when we first thought of this, that hey, we probably need our engineers to talk to people, it was more of like, even I am an engineer, even I work on product, and I also contribute to our open source project and things like that. So it should start with me, and
Hmm.
people should be able to see me do it, and then I can ask them to kind of go ahead and take the reins, and also I should always be there to help them. And the exact way we implemented it was to keep things simple. We simply have weekly call where we touch base on how things are with transition. We rotate between our engineers. So, for instance, last week was me, right? I was kind of helping out with support. The week before that, it was Fred, the CEO, right? And this week, it is going to be one of our engineers who works on DevOps. So every week we simply meet on Mondays and we're like, oh, hey, the support was this last week. We talked to these many people.
Hmm.
Here's some interesting things, patterns. And then for this week, it's gonna be this team member. And then that team member, of course, has access to our support platform. They have access to our support emails. They have access to the Discord where a lot of people ask questions. And because a couple of months ago when we started this, I kind of did sort of training for everyone where we met for 2 or 3 days straight, and I walked them through how to do support, how do you talk to people, and things like that. And so they saw me do it in front of them. And then I was also there to help them when they needed it. And so at this point, it has been more of a journey to get people comfortable with talking to people and just get better and better every week. And so we simply rotate engineers, including me and Fred, every week, and we just kind of take care of things. Of course, if there's stuff where someone who's working on front end and someone on support asks, "Hey, we have this specific requirement. Does the infrastructure support it?" Of course, that person, that engineer, is not gonna be like able to answer it, and so they'll kind of forward that to say me or Fred, right? And will answer that, but someone will be responsible for handling support. And that has helped us a lot because now everyone on the team inherently understands what people are
Yeah.
looking for, what questions people have, and what things we should be doing right now compared to in future.
Yeah. That's amazing. I like the system of like rotating it. And most importantly, I like the thing you mentioned about leading by example. I
Hmm.
know a lot of, I would say, CTOs would be like, I have other things that are high priority to do. So you guys go do this other one, go talk to the customers, talk to the head of customer success. They'll set you up, and then I'll see you guys later in one-on-ones or in team meetings. So it's great that you take like a me first approach to this. Like you do it first, and you
Hmm.
set an example, and also you help set up like your process for
Hmm.
this so that everyone is onboarded and they know that you're doing it. So no excuses. They can't say, "Oh, I cannot do it."
Yeah,
If our leader is doing it, why can't we?
yeah,
Why
exactly.
can't we do it? Yeah,
Exactly.
that's that's really cool. So I'm curious. Something that just came to my mind as we're talking about this was there's engineers talking to customers and understanding product usage and problems the customers are facing. But
Hmm.
then there's also the part about understanding business growth, right?
Hmm.
How's the business
Hmm.
doing? How does my work contribute to the company's overall growth? How do I know that what I'm doing is meaningful? How do you sort of approach that with developers? Because it's easy for a developer to just be in a silo, slapping code away, and just be like, "Yeah, I'm doing my stuff," but they don't know how it contributes to the business's overall growth.
Hmm. Sure, and that's a good question, and it helps that we are a relatively small team. We of course have tech partners and integrators and things like that. We chatted about that a couple minutes before we went live. But our core team is relatively small, and that kind of helps us propagate information in a better way. And what I really mean by that is if we need to make product decisions, um, we can tie them to why they matter to us. And so, for instance,
Mhm.
a while ago, we added support for Kubernetes to have Shuffle on there. And that was something that was technically possible, but not that easy to implement. And so someone would need, like, we need to handhold someone or an entire team to kind of implement Shuffle in terms of. So my mind's going in so many directions right now, but what I'm trying to say is when we had to work on support for Kubernetes, we essentially had one person, one engineer, one DevOps engineer kind of own the project, right?
Mhm.
And the business value was directly tied to the fact that hey, we have one potential customer who will directly use it. This is the dollar amount that will come through if this project goes through. But then we now also have support for Kubernetes, right? And so it's not just Docker and it's not just Shuffle Cloud, it's also Kubernetes. And so the way we like to do things is have people own pieces of projects or entire projects. And there's of course people who help them, but then one engineer who knows that what they're working on is very critical to the business. And that's one piece of it where there's features, capabilities, bug fixes, and things like that. Where just like mini or big projects where we directly tie it to, hey, here's what the direct contribution to business looks like, and here's what it will do in future as well. But then there's also the other thing where they also need to understand the core product, right? And
Sure.
how we make money through both cloud and on-prem, and how do we integrate the business model into the product itself, right? And the way we do those things is we have weekly calls for the entire core team, and we simply go through all the updates. But one of the main things for people to understand is also how the business is doing, how our operations are happening, and if we made any changes to our business model, or how we approach, let's say, support or the pipeline, things like that. Is that changing things? If we implemented one more feature, how did that contribute to the bottom line, right? And so,
Yeah.
like a lot of things in life, we do things in the simplest way we can, but you focus on execution. And so, if you want our engineers to understand business model and everything, for projects, we would like them to own the projects, and they would know the value of it because they need to know everything about the project, including its importance. And for the business model, we just let people know during our weekly calls about how things are going versus did the changes help, or are you going to change things, what the business model looks like. We also like to rotate in terms of, well, who talks overwhelmingly to potential customers, right? And again,
Yeah.
not something that our engineers like, but it drastically improves the understanding of business model in general, because if they're talking to someone, they need to know that themselves, and so it kind of forces them to think in that direction, because
Hmm.
hey, they are responsible for that, at least for
Yeah.
that week.
Yeah. That makes sense. I like the idea of thinking in projects, right?
Mhm.
So having one person taking on a project, and that project has an outcome, and you know what the business outcome is. So not that we need to implement a feature and you can call it a very nice day after that. It's there's a project, and then here's how beneficial this is going to be. Here's possibly how much money this could make us, and then on the weekly calls you go over how the business is doing. So everyone is on the same page, and they don't feel left out. That's
Mhm.
that's amazing. Something I want to talk about is hiring. Right, I've read a lot of books that said you put people first before you talk about ideas you want to build,
Yeah.
and then you get to people first and process next. So let's talk about people.
Mhm.
Are you actively like do you actively participate in like a hiring process, or is this delegated? If you do, how does that look like? What do you look out for when you want to hire an engineer?
This reminds me of a great book. I'm not sure if you read Build by Tony Fadell, but Tony is the person who's behind the iPhone, the iPad, the the iPod. He's the one who built Nest and sold it to Google and things like that. And he essentially built, well, not built. He wrote and authored this book called Build, and it's probably one of the best, if not the best book I've read in my life. Elon Musk's biography gives it a tough competition, but Build, and that book has a specific chapter on hiring, and I like to go back to it every now and then because hiring is much more than just skill, especially if you are a mid-stage startup. I don't call ourselves a startup, but just a fairly established business, and you have uh, a small core team working on a great product. Hiring is probably the most influential. Hiring new people and the decisions that you make during that process, those are some of the most influential decisions on where a company goes. And so I won't repeat everything that the book goes through, but my philosophy to hiring is always hiring problem solvers, right? And what I mean by problem solvers are people, engineers who do not care about their skill and get anything done. Now, that is super hard to find because people like to specialize, they look for specific field related roles, and that's fine if that's your core skill. But what we look for in people is, are you a problem solver? And I am a part of the hiring process. I had been in my previous job before I went to Duke, and my philosophy has always been the exact same. I look for problem solvers, and the specific niche area that we are hiring them for, they can get better at that, right? And so, in the simplest way I can kind of explain it, we don't do too many rounds of hiring. Usually, the way we find people is through the open source community. We have a lot of people who contribute to our code base on GitHub, and most of people that we hire are usually through that, where we find that that's just people who are doing really great work and they're looking for opportunities, and we're just gonna hire them, right? And the only thing that comes between them contributing to open source and them becoming a part of Shuffle is just one or two meetings with them, and I and Fred usually know if someone's a problem solver or not, and that's essentially the bar. And so far, it has worked quite well.
Yeah. So wait, I like the part about them being problem solvers, right? So I'm really curious. How do you test for problem solver? Do you give them like an assessment? Is this like role based? Do you ask them like an open ended question? How exactly do you go about this?
So it's a combination of that, but
Hmm.
it's usually questions during the call, as well as if we really want to be sure, then asking them to solve a very specific challenging issue on GitHub. Like we have a specific issue on GitHub, someone's kind of like open that issue on GitHub, and we know that this requires you to think about 10 different things to do it the right way. And we essentially ask them not to solve it, but then just be like, oh, hey, here's that specific issue on the repository. What do you think about it? Right? And we simply want to know what the approach looks like. They don't need to solve the problem right there and there, because if it was that easy, it wouldn't be open on GitHub. We would have solved it already, right?
Yeah.
So what we're really looking for is how they approach it. And the best people we have found, they are not limited by how the industry expects you to solve specific problems. And cybersecurity is already a niche area. So do you think about networking when something comes along? If it's also about how do you understand the problem? Are you just there to fix the issue as soon as you can, or are you there
Hmm.
to understand the inherent problem that's coming up, and is there a better way to do it, or is there a better way to just not have that piece of the platform at all and just do it in a better way, right? There's
Hmm.
no right answer to that question ever. It's almost always, hey, what do you think? And we're just gonna go from there. So we don't have a specific playbook. The playbook is asking them hard questions.
Yeah. That's a good one. Picking out something that's just open out there and
Yeah.
asking, yeah, what do you think about this? And maybe hopefully they don't shock you with I don't know. I will need some time to to figure it out. They don't hit you with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely does make sense. Problem solving is one key thing. Aside problem solving, What
Mhm.
else? What's like one key driver for like engineers that once you speak to someone, I was reading a book recently, and it says it's a sales book. It says when you're trying to hire a salesperson, if you see that they are coachable, for instance, even
Mhm.
if do not they do not pass other skills very well, but once you see that they are coachable, you tell them something at the start of the call, you teach them
Mhm.
something, and then the next day you ask them and they can say it back, you hire them. So for
Mhm.
engineering, what would you say is that thing that if you see an engineer displays this, just be like, yeah, I found him. I found that engineer.
So I'd say two things about that. The coachable piece, definitely. We kind of see that during our questioning as well, because we don't expect anyone to understand the issues to the level that we would expect someone who has worked with us for 1 year, right? The only thing we're looking for is the approach. And so if we ask them a question and they are getting somewhere but not there yet, or not quite there in the direction we want them to be, then we will nudge them a bit. We're like, oh, that's interesting. Well, what if we try to do something like that? And then see how they respond to that. We're like, oh, so yeah, we can do that. And then we would say, that's doable. But can you see why that might not be a good idea for the long term? And then just see how they respond to that. And
Yeah,
it's more of like the back and forth and us understanding, are they listening to us? Are they actually soaking in what we're trying to tell them? And that tells us a lot about whether they'll be coachable when we hire them. So that definitely they need to be coachable, because cybersecurity is not a one and done thing. You just have to keep improving all the time, and so that for
yeah,
sure. But the thing that just like gets us, we're like, yeah, this we need to hire this guy or girl, is is the passion with which passion and I mean, even these are the buzzwords used in the industry, but the true essence of, are they really passionate about what they're talking about? They don't need to be in cybersecurity, but are they actually passionate about this? When they talk about it, when they talk about the solution, like, do their eyes sparkle? Do they like, are they like, oh, but we can do that? And well, what if we did
yeah,
this? What if we just remove this entire piece and just do it this way, right? And so it's, when they talk about it, how do they talk about it?
yeah,
Are they super pumped about it? And
yeah.
that just tells us that we should hire them.
That's amazing. Passion and definitely coachability. You don't want to hire someone that doesn't listen.
Exactly.
It's just it's just gonna be a lot of headache for sure. So I'd say it seems you're away. I'm happy to pause for a
Uh,
bit.
yeah, so sorry, I'm just kind of plugging in. Just a sec.
Yeah, no worries. This is fun. Is Does anyone have any questions? Just in case you're listening, we're happy to take
Sorry
them.
about that.
Yeah, no worries, no worries, man. I have this question I always ask CTOs anytime I talk to them. Must the CTO, because the CTO is on the path, is on the management track of engineering, right? Engineering managers can eventually become CTOs. Do you feel like a CTO should have technical experience or not?
Um, yes, they should inherently understand what they're trying to control, right? If there are levels to which how technical you are supposed to be, but your goal as CTO in general is to make sure that, and the reason why I make the bifurcation is because not all companies are tech first companies. Now, of course, every company now wants to be tech first company, But
Mm-hmm.
if you are a retailer, the CTO's job for a retail company would be slightly different for compared to some another CTO who's working for a SaaS product, right? Like me. Now, in either the case, I believe that the person has to be technical. They need to inherently understand what they are working on, because low level understanding, not too deep, but as long as you understand the fundamentals, you cannot, there's always exceptions, but you cannot open a restaurant without knowing how to
How
turn up the
food is
heat
made.
on, yeah, just how you gonna turn up the heat on your stove, right? I mean, if you don't even know that, you it'll be tough, let's just say that, right? So
Yeah.
the simple answer is yes. The level to which how much technical you should be varies based on what the business does. But
Mm-hmm.
when you are the one making a decision for the entire company, you are steering the company in specific directions. You need to inherently know and understand what you are doing, what the tech looks like, what the tech stack is, infrastructure, everything around it. Do redundancies is the tech debt. There's why are specific departments making decisions that they are making, all of that stuff. So there's no specific this is more of a qualitative question, I'd say. But if I just had to say one thing, yes, they need to be technical.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine Mira at OpenAI not being an engineer.
OpenAI
That
would
would
have
be
a hard time if she.
if she isn't an if she isn't an engineer. So yeah, I do agree that some industries that are maybe tech enabled, like e-commerce,
Mhm.
um, and the CTO probably just needs to know the tech stack and how it's all put together, but maybe not the inner workings of each. But for a
Yeah.
technology first company, a SaaS business, or even a dev tool company, it's important that the CTO at least knows like what's going on. They should be able to, yeah, get the system up if something goes down, maybe, or at least know who to call and who to what to ask, the right questions to ask. So yeah, that's great. And then right, my final question as a CTO, what you feel is the top skill you have to apply every day that contributes to the overall business growth?
I think it's the same thing, and this is quite simple for me to answer. It's the same thing that we look for in people we hire. A CTO has to be a good problem solver above anything else, because the the main goal is to make sure that everything works well, and it works in a way that it makes sense for the business. And so if we can use, let's say, GitHub to do product management, which we do, um, versus, let's say, we start using Jira, which is, I mean, again, a great product, but it'll probably be an overkill for
Mhm,
what we're trying to do, right? And so
mhm,
if I am kind of, if I'm facing the decision of moving our product management and everything on GitHub versus Jira, and there are some specific things that Jira can do and GitHub cannot do right out of the gate, but then the financial implications are drastic between both of them, then I need to be a problem solver. I also, the technical thing comes in. I should be able to develop integrations into GitHub that can do the exact same thing as Jira, right? The reason
mhm.
why Jira is so great is because it just has everything, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I need to be, any CTO needs to be a good problem solver, because you are the person that people come up to. You are the person people look up to. you are the one who drives decisions can make or break infrastructure or the entire company. And so if you're a good problem solver, you just take care of things. You make, for the most part, right decisions in the moment. Then you're doing a good job.
Yeah,
You just need to keep making things happen, and to make things happen, you need to be a good problem solver. So
yeah,
being that will make your life easy.
that's great. Thank you very much, Jay. I like when you said you need to be a problem solver, you need to be a good problem solver, and you need to be a quick problem solver. Because a lot of times I'm sure you'd have to think on the fly and come up with solutions
Yeah,
faster than everyone else and be able to make decisions quicker than everyone else as well.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Jay. Is LinkedIn the best way to find you if anyone has like any questions that they want to ask you any, you know, stuff about Shuffle? So I have,
Definitely.
yeah, this is like your LinkedIn URL. I put up the whole thing, but
Yeah.
it's Jay Gohil here
Mhm.
as well. So yeah, hit up Jay on LinkedIn if you have any questions. And thank you so much, Jay, for coming on the stream today. This has been really insightful. Um, I hope one day, well, I don't know if I could become a CTO, but if I do, I'm sure I'm going to be a better one because of this conversation today.
Yeah, this was a wonderful conversation. This is exactly how I expected this to go when we first kind of started chatting about doing this. And good conversation is why I came here, and that's what I got. So thank you, and I hope
Yeah,
people get something out of this.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, I hope everyone listening got something out. And yeah, that's it on today's episode of Everything Outside Code. And I'll see you all next week, Wednesday, on another fantastic episode. Cheers.
All right, have a good one, everybody.